Signed my girlfriend's joke contract, complete with a doodle, only to discover she was dead serious about enforcing every bizarre rule. My girlfriend has always had a hard time trusting people. Her childhood was rough, full of abuse, and her last 2 relationships were with guys who messed with her head, leaving her to pick up the pieces. When I matched with her on Tinder back in January, I had no idea what was in store. We hit it off fast, started dating at the end of January, and I honestly thought this could be the long-term thing I'd been hoping for. She's hilarious, unbelievably sweet, and our chemistry was electric from the jump. One thing about us, we thrive on jokes together. Not a day passed without one of us dropping some dumbass comment or making the other crack up until we cried. And with coronavirus shutting everything down, I was laid off and collecting unemployment, so hanging with her became my daily highlight. Then, last week, we were lounging on the couch when she got up to grab something from the back. She returned holding a red folder, trying to look all official, then plopped it on my lap. GF contract, it read. I raised an eyebrow, not sure if I should laugh or run for the hills. But the tension melted as soon as she began reading it out loud. There were so many ridiculous rules that we couldn't stop laughing. Stuff like, GF, you cannot see Travis, my lifelong buddy, without me there. Me, geez, am I supposed to carry a mini cardboard cutout of you in my wallet or something? She'd burst into giggles. Lol. And get this, she even wrote spicy ones like, nobody is to touch your pee-pee but me. When she handed me a pen to sign the contract, I scribbled my 2 initials and, just for laughs, added a penis doodle next to them, not taking it seriously for a second. We forgot the whole thing and went back to our usual antics. Fast forward a week. Travis asks me to come over to his place and smoke. I say sure, figuring it's a normal day. A few hours later, my phone buzzes. It's my girlfriend on Snapchat. GF, hey Wid, 0 me, just chilling over Travis's house, babe. Woo? GF, Travis house? Me, yeah? What's up? GF, me, what's up? You want me to come over? GF, no, you told me you weren't going to talk to Travis without me being there, remember? At this point, I just froze, racking my brain for when I ever promised something like that. She hits me with the contract reminder, and suddenly, I realize she's dead serious about those rules. I flat out told her there was no way I could agree to some of her demands, they were so out there. I need $20 from you every 3 days? You can't get a job less than 15 miles away from our county? Who does that? When I said no, she absolutely lost it. She started screaming at me about how she thought she could trust me and that I broke her contract. She was yelling so loud that Travis, even without speakerphone, could hear her through my phone. Embarrassed, I excused myself and drove to her house. The moment I walked in, she went berserk, accusing me of lying and calling me selfish for not wanting to follow the rules. She brought up her past, saying I should understand how wounded she is. I wasn't angry, just stunned by this sudden personality switch. She'd always been gentle and affectionate before all this. Sure, she'd text often, wondering where I was, but given her trust issues, I understood. Now, hearing insults raining down, about everything from my bedroom skills to how I'm on unemployment, something in me snapped. I finally fired back, begging her to see how unreasonable the contract was. I needed my own boundaries too and tried desperately to make her understand that I couldn't be by her side every second of every day. By then, she was sobbing, saying she'd just started to trust me, and now I was the same as the others. That couldn't be further from the truth. I care for her deeply, and she's confided things in me she never told anyone else. Trying to salvage things, I offered a compromise. I would dedicate Sundays and Mondays to her, just for us. Movies at home, me cooking, dinner, or going out somewhere nice if she wanted. It wasn't enough for her. She refused, breaking down in tears, accusing me of lying. In the end, I left for home while she stayed behind, crying in her house, thinking I was just another liar. Update 1. After everything that's happened, I finally have some distance and clarity, so here's how this wild chapter of my life closed. We're not together anymore, thank God. Right after my last attempt to get advice and support, I was flooded with people's messages. Before officially ending things, I wanted to give it one last shot at reasoning with her. Maybe there was something I was missing. Maybe I could get through to her if I just explained it all calmly, one more time. So I called her. Each time I tried to gently tell her that I simply couldn't do everything on that insane list she'd made for me, she'd shut me down, calling me names, belittling me, saying things like, I guess you're not the one for me, then, or, this other guy I was talking to said he would do it, no problem. It was like talking to a wall, a really angry, manipulative wall. Finally, I just said it, we should see other people since I can't make this work with that list of demands you want from me. Wait, what? She said, almost genuinely surprised. I'm breaking up with you, Sarah, I told her, not her real name, obviously. How could you do this? You were supposed to give in to me, she shouted, her voice more unhinged than I'd ever heard before. I could barely believe it, so I tried to keep calm. What? You're making insane requests. It's just not possible for me to do all those things. You're going to leave me? I'm the best thing that's ever happened to your pathetic life. How will you replace me? I'll manage, especially if my next partner doesn't flip out on me just because I won't follow a ridiculous list of demands. Maybe you should go find that other guy if he's ready to be your slave. I hung up. That's when the real madness started. She called me, not once, not twice, but seriously about 20 times, using friends' numbers when I blocked her usual ones. Eventually, I managed to block every number and escape the onslaught. Then she switched tactics and unleashed herself on my Twitter, spamming me with texts, cursing me out, threatening to self-harm. Normally, I would have freaked and tried to talk her down. But after hearing from a few people that this might only be another way for her to manipulate me, I kept my distance, just letting her blow up my phone with these threats. When she sent me a photo of someone cutting their wrist, telling me, "This is what you made me do," I decided to check. And, yeah, it was the first image that popped up on Google when you search for self-harm. I sent her a screenshot of my search results, and she went ballistic again before I blocked her, this time for good. The harassment didn't even stop there. She made new accounts on Twitter and Instagram, blowing up my posts with lies, claiming I was stalking her, calling me a creep. I blocked every account as fast as I could. If friends or anyone asked about her accusations, I'd show them the messages, explain what was going on, and that it always put things in perspective. It even reached a point where every time I posted, she'd instantly follow with new accusations, and thankfully, my friends and others would jump in and flame her right back. Eventually, it died down. But just as I thought I was finally free, last week I got a text from some random number, a video of my ex with another guy, with the caption, "Found someone who will follow my list, smile." That stung. It hurt. But after the first hour, I found myself grateful. I was alive, out, and, in a way, bulletproof. Life goes on. I've landed a new job. I haven't heard from her since that video, and the skies have been much clearer. One thing I forgot to mention, I ended up getting in contact with one of her so-called ex-boyfriends. Turns out, they never even dated. He'd hooked up with her a couple times, purely physical, both of them knowing there'd be nothing more. Then, out of the blue, she tried to make him sign some bizarre contract. When he refused, saying, "We're not even together," she absolutely lost it and threw him out. I now fully believe she lied about her so-called abusive exes. But a part of me still thinks, based on everything I've seen, maybe something did happen to her as a child to make her like this, because otherwise, I can't explain it. And what exactly was in that infamous contract? I still remember some of the rules burned into my brain. I was supposed to give her $20 every 3 days. I wasn't allowed to see my friends unless she was present. I couldn't have a job more than 15 miles from her place. If I went out to eat, I had to share half my food with her. Always. No talking to people in public when she was with me. She would do all the talking. There were easily 50 rules like that, mixed with a few truly absurd sexual demands. Honestly, at first, I thought she was joking. But looking back, I don't think she was kidding at all. All told, I got grazed by a massive bullet. And I couldn't be more thankful. Update 2. I thought the video was the grand finale. Credits roll, lights come up, I go home and make pasta. Then a beige envelope with a county seal showed up in my mailbox like a jump scare. Sarah, not her name, versus me, small claims court. Amount sought, $680 in incidental damages. I did the math. That's $20 every 3 days from the day I signed the GF contract. She'd invoiced our breakup. I brought it to Travis. He stared at it like it might bite him. "Dude, am I a clause?" he asked. I told him he was at least a subsection. Court day comes. I wore the only button-down I own that doesn't smell like buffalo sauce. She showed up in a black blazer and heels, clutching that same red folder like it was a holy text. When I walked past, she didn't look at me, but I heard her whisper, "Finally." The courtroom was smaller than it looks on TV, fluorescent lights and a single-board bailiff. She sat at the plaintiff table and started arranging printed screenshots and a stapled packet with pink tabs. The judge, a woman who looked like she'd seen everything twice, asked her to explain the claim. Sarah stood up so fast her chair squeaked. "Your Honor, he signed a contract with me," she said, and held up a sheet I recognized, my dumb initials, and the world's worst penis doodle practically waving at the bench. I wanted the floor to swallow me. "That is, my signature," I said, when it was my turn, looking straight at the judge and not at the cartoon anatomy immortalized in black ink. Sarah launched into her speech like she'd been practicing in the mirror. I had agreed to payments, to proximity, to restrict my friend's access, to shared meals. She used the word breach like she'd just learned it and wanted extra credit. She even called Travis a known negative influence, which made him, in the third row, clap a hand over his mouth to keep from laughing. The judge raised a hand. "Miss, let me see the contract." Sarah marched it over like she was handing over the Declaration of Independence. The judge scanned the clauses, her face absolutely neutral, then glanced at me. "You're the defendant?" "Yes, ma'am." "Did you believe this was a binding contract?" "Absolutely not. It was a joke between us," I said, heart pounding. She took it out while we were messing around. I drew that. I gestured vaguely at the page, not wanting to say penis to a judge, because I thought it was funny. Later she tried to enforce it. When I refused, she harassed me. "I have messages. She even sent me a fake self-harm photo from Google to try to keep me from leaving. Sarah snapped, "That's a lie." "He's lying, Your Honor, he always lies." She slammed her palm on the red folder. Papers jumped. The judge didn't blink. "I'm not ruling on your relationship. I'm ruling on whether this is an enforceable contract. And it isn't." She tapped the page with a pen. "There's no consideration, no meeting of the minds, and the terms are unconscionable. You can't require someone to pay you for the privilege of dating you and forbid their friendships. Even if you could, this is not signed with intent to be bound. Also," she paused, and I thought she was going to say something about the doodle, "parts of this are not only unenforceable, they're offensive." "Offensive?" Sarah said, like she'd just been accused of kicking a puppy. "Claim dismissed," the judge said, stamping something. "No monetary awards. Both of you leave each other alone." Sarah stood there, mouth open. Then she turned her entire body toward me like a weather vane in a tornado. "You think you won? You think you're smart?" she hissed. "You embarrassed me on purpose." The bailiff took one step and she snapped her eyes back to her folder, breathing heavy. On her way out she shoulder-checked the door so hard the glass rattled. I sat in my car in the parking lot and just breathed. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. It buzzed again with an email notification instead, subject line in all caps, "Cease and desist slander." The whole thing read like a mad-libbed legal document. At the end she wrote, "You have 24 hours to apologize and send my back pay or I escalate to federal." I didn't respond. I forwarded it to a folder called Absolutely Not. The court thing should have been the outrageous part. It wasn't. 2 days later, my new job calls me into a quick chat with HR. My stomach landed in my shoes. The HR lady was kind but serious. "We received an anonymous report that you have a history of harassment and financial abuse," she said, folding her hands. "We get these sometimes. We just want to give you a heads up." I showed her the dismissal paper. I told her, in the lightest, least dramatic way I could, that an ex was upset and had filed a claim that got thrown out. I didn't mention the doodle. HR nodded, said, "Thanks," and told me they documented everything and blocked the sender. On my way back to my desk, my phone vibrated again with a message from another unknown number, a photo of quarters lined up on a windowsill. "Back pay is due," the text said. My spine prickled. That night, around midnight, someone knocked on my apartment door. Not a neighbor knock. Loud, hard, and spaced out like it wanted the whole building to hear. I froze. Then I heard her voice, sing-song, like we were at a picnic. "Open up, babe. I brought exact change." I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. My hands were shaking so bad I fumbled the phone when I tried to dial 911. The peephole showed nothing but her blazer sleeve and her hair. She put something thin under the door. A paper slid onto the rug that said second notice across the top. It was a printout of a spreadsheet with dates and $20 in the right column. At the bottom, "I accept cash or Cash App." By the time the cops arrived, she was gone, but the downstairs neighbor had a Ring camera that caught her, leaving with the red folder hugged to her chest. I filed a report. The officer asked, "Do you know her?" And I actually laughed, because what else do you do when you're explaining to a stranger that your ex tried to bill you for love? 2 mornings after that, I woke up to a DM on Instagram from the guy in that "found someone who will follow my list" video. The username was something random followed by a bunch of numbers. No profile pic. "Hey," it said. "Sorry for being part of the video. I didn't know about you until last week." She made me sign a thing. I'm freaking out. "Can I ask you something?" We met in person because I needed to see a real human face attached to all of this. A neutral public place, coffee shop, bright lights, barista who looked like she could bench press me. He was my age, maybe a little younger, and looked absolutely wrung out. He kept glancing at the door. "She told me you were abusive," he said, voice low. "Said you hit her. Said you had a gun. Said you stalked her." He rubbed his eyes. "Then last weekend she got mad I wouldn't give her my phone. She screamed for like an hour about respecting the contract. I tried to leave and she stood in the doorway with her arms out and told me I couldn't break clause 27. He let out a sad, shocked laugh. "There are so many clauses." "She sued me," I said. "She lost." He blinked. "Oh," he said, and you could see that fact rearrange furniture in his brain. "She said the judge was on her side." He showed me the contract she'd made him sign. Same font. Same pink tabs. This time it had a header, "GF contract 2.0, like she'd patched bugs. My stomach did a weird flip when I saw my name half erased in one section where it said "no contact with" my name. She'd written over it in Sharpie to put X's. It bled through the page. "Can I ask you a weird question?" he said. "Did she ever rehearse? Like, out loud?" I must have made a face because he pulled up a voice memo and hit play. It was her voice, monotone, like she was reading for a part. "Your Honor, in Exhibit B you will see his signature, which is legally binding under the state statute." There was a pause, then you could hear her say to herself, softer, "No. Less angry there. Again." And then she did it again. It made me feel sick and sad at the same time. He told me he was leaving. He had a bag in his trunk and his sister was waiting 2 blocks away. I told him good. I told him to block everything, to save messages, to be ready for her to show up with ultimatums written on loose leaf. As we were getting up, his phone lit up with her name. He put it face down on the table without looking and his jaw twitched. I watched him walk out and hug a girl who looked like him in the parking lot. She held him like she was mad on his behalf. The last straw for me was a handwritten note in my mailbox 3 days later with a smiley face in the corner. I forgive you. Come talk to me. I'll lower the payments to $10. I took the note with me to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. Standing in front of a different judge explaining GF contract made my brain feel like it was splitting into 2 versions of me, the one living it and the one listening, horrified. The temp order was granted. The deputy who served it called me later and said, she accepted it, said finally, he's learning consequences, and asked me where you live. He told her he couldn't give out personal information. He told me to be careful. Since then, it's been quiet in that creepy way that makes you jump when your toaster pops. I got a group text from Travis and 2 other guys from our circle today, a screenshot of a new Tinder profile. Same pictures, new name. In one of the prompts it said, I love boundaries and contracts, with a winky face. I don't know if my chest got tight because it was funny or because it wasn't. I changed my locks. I don't leave the shades open at night anymore. I'm cooking more. I keep the court paper in my backpack and the restraining order in my glove compartment. Every time my phone buzzes with an unknown number, my heart does a little jump and then remembers itself. But when I walk out to my car in the morning and the world smells like cut grass and coffee, I'm weirdly okay. It's not a movie. There's no dramatic music, no final boss fight. Just quiet, and the relief of not being billed for existing. Update 3. The quiet held for 8 days, like a glass of water you set down on the edge of a table and keep glancing at, waiting for the wobble. The permanent order hearing landed right in the middle of that silence. Different courtroom, different judge, same hum of fluorescent lights. She came in with the red folder hugged to her ribs like a heating pad. I had a thick manila envelope with printed screenshots, the Ring video still of her blazer in my hallway, and a USB with the voice memo the other guy had given me. I expected a fight. What I didn't expect was her stepping up to the podium and trying to say objection when I introduced a text she'd sent 2 days after the temp order. The judge blinked at her like he'd been interrupted during a sneeze. This is not a trial, he said. You don't get objections here. She tried to argue the order wasn't necessary because we had a contract for Tuesdays. The judge glanced at the red folder for half a second like it had personally insulted him. He let me talk. I told him about the late night knock and the exact change voice through my door. I kept my throat steady when I said she knew my building and my hours and now my job. I played the voice memo where she's practicing Your Honor in a flat calm like she's reading a bedtime story to a doll. You could feel the temperature in the room drop a degree. Then the new guy stood up when the judge asked if anyone else wanted to speak. He had on a shirt with a collar that still had fold creases in it. He said, softly, that he was scared of her and left his apartment because of Clause 27. He said he'd like to be able to walk his sister to her car without looking over his shoulder. He handed over his copy of GF contract 2.0. The judge took it between 2 fingers, skimmed, and put it face down like a tarot card he didn't want to flip. Order granted for 2 years, he said to me, brisk as a stamp. To her, no contact means no contact. No third-party contact. No contact through employers, social media, deliveries, anonymous tips, or legal-looking papers you typed yourself. Do you understand? She nodded so hard it was almost a bow and then said, he still owes me $40. The judge sighed like the building was heavy. Ma'am. Stop. I went back to work feeling like my bones had exhaled for the first time in a month. That lasted until Friday at 3:12 p.m., when HR pinged me to pop in, quick. It was that same tone people use when they ask you if you're free for coffee and then slide a multi-level marketing binder across the table. They had a fax printed on bright white paper with an eagle watermark that looked like it had been traced over from a 4th grader's notebook. Order for income withholding, it said at the top, and under that, in a smaller font, back pay, romantic agreement. My name was on it. My employer's name was spelled right. The judge's name was, not, Statute 431.06, it read. I stared at the typo like it had personally winked at me. Is there any court action we should know about? HR asked. I handed them the dismissal from small claims and the final order from Tuesday. This is fake, I said, and hated how my voice sounded like it was apologizing. They nodded. Legal poked their head in and said, we see these once in a while. Well, not exactly this. They kept the fax and blocked the number. I forwarded the PDF to the detective who'd taken my restraining order report. He called me back 20 minutes later. Where did this come from? He asked. Fax machine in HR, I said. Header says, and I read him the string of digits. He whistled very softly. That's a strip mall fax number. Pack and ship place off Maple. They have cameras. An hour later he sent me a still. Sarah in her black blazer, hair in that tight twist she wore to court, the red folder tucked under her arm. She was standing at a counter, looking straight into the lens like she could see through it. The detective wrote, appreciate you saving everything. We're adding this as a violation. That night someone spelled pay on my windshield with quarters. They were spaced too evenly to be chaos. You could see where a wet thumb had pressed each one into the glass. I stood there looking at the word like it was a new constellation. My building's camera didn't catch the door, but my neighbor across the hall had a little stick-on lens above his peephole aimed at the stairwell for my Amazon packages, he always says. We watched the clip together on his phone. There she was, ascending like an escalator, quarters in one hand, the red folder in the other. She stopped, checked her reflection in the stairwell window, and then walked past my door without even glancing at it, like this wasn't about me at all. The detective picked up the footage and told me to bag the coins in a Ziploc with the date on it. No promises, he said, but sometimes people leave a fingerprint when they're busy spelling. Saturday afternoon, a certified letter slip was waiting in my mailbox like a dare. I signed for it at the post office. It was from a P.O. box with a town name I'd never heard of. Inside, a single sheet of paper with notice to vacate across the top and my address below it, except she'd written my apartment number as 4B. I live in 3B. At the bottom, where a signature should have been, she'd drawn a heart. The post office woman watched my face while I stood there, and when I looked up she tilted her head toward the shred bin like, your move. Sunday morning, my phone woke me up with a number that wasn't in my contacts and was an unknown. It was the detective again, and this time he sounded alert in a way that put a wire through my spine. We picked her up, he said. She came back to the pack and ship. Clerk recognized her, called us. There was already a warrant for the restraining order violation with the facts. She had the red folder on the counter when we got there. She asked if she could take it with her to jail. I sat on the edge of my bed gripping my sheet like I was trying to wring it out. Is she? She's being held for arraignment tomorrow, he said. No contact is still in effect. If you get anything from her, don't answer. Send it to me. He paused. This is weird. There was a copy of an earnings statement in the folder with your old job listed, from months ago. It's like she printed out your LinkedIn and made it into a pay stub template. She's thorough. That helps us. At arraignment, I didn't say anything. I sat in the back in a plastic chair that wobbled and watched her come in through a door on the side in County Blues, hair flattened. She looked smaller without the blazer and the click of heels. She didn't see me. The prosecutor laid out the restraining order, the late night knock, the coins, the fax with statute 431-06, and the pack and ship footage. The public defender asked for a release. The judge said, no contact means no contact, in that same tired tone, and set bail with a number that sounded like an obligation, not a punishment. He looked at her and said, this is serious. This isn't about money. It's about leaving people alone. On my way out, I passed a bulletin board with a flyer for a community theater production of A Few Good Men. Someone had torn the pull tabs down so it looked like fringe. I bought myself a coffee from the machine in the hallway that tastes like hot paper and walked to my car with the cup burning my palm and a feeling in my chest I couldn't name. Not triumph. Not even relief. Something more like gravity turning back on. That night, the guy from GF Contract 2.0 texted me a photo of the back seat of his car. It was packed with boxes and a laundry basket full of detergent and a pair of sneakers on top. Made it to my sister's, he wrote. Thank you. I told him I was glad and meant it in a way that felt heavy and clean. The detective called again 2 days later and told me fingerprints on 2 of the quarters matched hers. He said it like it was just a checkbox, another small piece of the machine clicking into place. I went to the sink, washed my hands for no reason, and lined one of the unprinted quarters up on my kitchen counter as a joke to myself. Exact change for walking through my own door. It's quieter again now, but it's a different quiet. Not the glass of water teeter. More like a room after a long argument when you can hear the refrigerator hum. I cook. I take out the trash at night with my keys threaded through my fingers even though I probably don't need to anymore. I go to work and nobody calls me into an office to slide me a bad photocopy of justice. The red folder hasn't appeared under my door, and the only thing knocking at midnight lately has been my upstairs neighbor's sneaker dryer. Every morning, the light off the cut grass outside my complex hits the wall in a rectangle, and I stand in it while the coffee drips. When my phone buzzes now, it's usually a calendar reminder or Travis sending me a picture of his cat in a shoebox. I'm learning the difference between silence that means something's coming and silence that just means silence. I keep the restraining order in my glove compartment and one of those bagged quarters in the freezer next to a bag of peas, like a weird little time capsule. I'm not being billed for existing. I'm just existing. That's enough. Update 4. The quiet didn't shatter so much as it pinged. An email with a subject line that looked like a Valentine's Day card. Arbitration award. Romantic. Agreement. The logo at the top was a clip art gavel inside a heart. The sender was a Gmail with arbitration solutions for you and a number. It said a neutral third party had reviewed our contract, found in her favor, and awarded her $680 plus a $160 filing love fee. Love fee. The arbitrator had signed it with a cursive font named brush script like it was 2003. The footer quoted the Federal Arbitration Act. Arbitration. I stared at the missing T until my eyes watered. I forwarded it to the detective and to HR because it came with a second attachment titled Earnings Withholding Notice V2. Same eagle watermark from before, now wearing a tiny blindfold they'd added in MS Paint. HR replied with will document, also, which is the exact tone you want to hear from the people in charge of your direct deposit. I thought that was the punchline until a guy in a tuxedo with a ukulele knocked on my door at noon the next day and started singing, "You owe her, Twen Tai, every third day," to the tune of Happy Birthday. He had quarters taped up the neck of the instrument and a neat climb like notes on a staff. I blinked at him through the chain. He blinked back. "I'm supposed to deliver a message," he said, apologetic. It had hearts on the order. I thought it was an anniversary thing. He slid a folded paper under my door. The top said mandatory mediation in the same heart gavel letterhead, and underneath, in 12-point Times New Roman, failure to attend will result in escalation to federal. I told him he had the wrong apartment and filmed his face as he read the name and went, "Oh, man," in a voice like a seesaw coming to rest. He pointed to the pickup instructions on his phone. Same P.O. box from the fake vacate notice. He gave me the number he'd been texted from. I sent the video to the detective. He wrote back, "This counts. Save the paper." 2 days later an actual envelope from the courthouse arrived, my name typed straight, my address right, all real. Petition to confirm arbitration award, it said, hearing date 3 weeks out. The petition had been filed pro se by her. The award attached was the same brush script Valentine I'd gotten in my inbox. I took the packet to legal aid and a lady with gray hair and a stapler that could bite through a phone book skimmed it and said, "Okay," in a flat, satisfied way, like a plumber, hearing a drip. At the hearing, she wore the blazer again, the red folder tucked under her arm like a child. I'd never seen that courtroom that full for a Tuesday morning. The judge was new to me, a man with half-moon glasses who read like he'd been trained to disarm bombs by sighing at them. "Ms., not her name," he said, "tell me about this arbitration." She said affidavit like avocado and Federal Arbitration Act like it was a spell. She slid the award onto the bench like a communion wafer. He peered at it. "What is this organization?" he asked. "American Romantic Arbitration Association," she said, as if it were a building you could go visit after lunch. He looked at the heart gavel logo for a long, quiet moment. "Do you have proof that the other party agreed to arbitrate?" She glowed and produced the GF contract, only now there was a new page taped in the back with scotch tape so fresh it still had fingerprints in it. "Section 51, she said. The heading was dispute resolution. The font didn't match. The page numbers jumped from 12 to 51 to 13 like a magic trick performed by someone sweating. The judge blinked slowly. "When was this page added?" "It was always there," she said. He signed. "See?" She jabbed at my initials and, God help me, the doodle like it was a notary seal. The judge slid the paper back toward her with 2 fingers the way you push away a menu once you've decided. Petition denied. There is no valid agreement to arbitrate, and this organization is not a recognized arbitral forum. Also, he glanced at me, then back at her, "You are under a no-contact order." How did the respondent receive notice? She brightened. I emailed him. And sent a singing performer. And I faxed HR because they're garnishing. The bailiff's eyes cut to me. The judge held up a hand. "Stop. Ms., not her name, you do not get to reinvent service. You may not contact him. Not by email. Not by performer. Not by fax. Not by Eagle." He turned to the clerk. "Please mark that exhibit and forward a copy of the recording to the prosecutor. To me, you can go." The bailiff took the red folder to the side table as an exhibit and she reached after it like someone had just yanked out an 4. "That's mine," she said, a little girl voice cracking out of a lawyer costume. "That's my property." "It's evidence," the judge said. "It'll be returned when it can be returned." I sat in my car after and laughed, the kind that has no air in it. I texted the guy from GF contract too. A photo of the ticket stub from the parking garage because I needed to send a picture of something that wasn't a scanned fake court order for once. He sent back a thumbs up and a picture of his sister's dog asleep with its tongue sticking out. My shoulders dropped a full inch. The detective called that afternoon. "Thank you," he said. The ukulele guy was a creative touch. "We're adding the email and the delivery as violations." He had the pack and ship footage. He had the email headers. He had a printed out screenshot of the arbitration Gmail's profile picture, which was a stock photo of Scales of Justice with the Getty watermark still in the corner. "It's like she's trying to speedrun all the ways to break a restraining order," he said, not unkindly. They picked her up the next morning on the new warrant. She didn't have the red folder in the booking photo for the first time since I'd known she owned it. Her hair was down, and without the twist she looked young in a way that hurt something soft in me I didn't know I still had. At arraignment on the violations, the prosecutor stood and read the bullet points: email, delivery, fax, lobby camera, and then, without drama, asked for a mental health evaluation as part of any release. The public defender didn't argue. The judge ordered it. "No contact remains," he said to her, the corners of his mouth turned down like he was deciding where to set a heavy box. "Do you understand?" She nodded and stared at the tabletop. Not once did she scan the room for me. A week later a victim advocate called and asked if I wanted to give an impact statement at the violation hearing. I said I didn't know how to translate ukulele and quarters into a single sentence. She laughed softly and said, "You don't have to be poetic. Just tell the truth." I told the judge that I jump when my toaster pops now, that my HR lady knows too much about my dating life, that someone sang at my door about arrears. I said I wanted to walk up my own stairs and think about groceries. It felt simple and enormous at the same time, like admitting out loud that you're cold. The judge stared at his notes for a long second. "No contact means no contact," he said again, but there was something new in his voice this time, like the echo off a deeper wall. He put her on supervised probation, told her to complete the eval and whatever treatment was recommended, and extended the protective order to match. When he finished, the bailiff stacked the marked exhibits and the red folder landed on top with a gentle, official thump. For the first time, it looked like what it was, office supplies. When I got home that night, there was nothing on my windshield, no paper under my door, no calls from numbers that looked like they were generated by flipping a phone book open and stabbing at a page. My neighbor's sneaker dryer hummed upstairs. Travis sent me a video of his cat trying to sit in a Pringles can. The guy from 2-0 sent me a picture of his sister's driveway chalked with a hopscotch grid and, underneath, the words Clause 27, "Be nice to yourself." I stood in my kitchen with the freezer open for too long, the cold climbing up my arms, fingers on the ziplock with the quarter. I put it back next to the peas. 2 mornings later, I walked to my car and the only thing on the glass was a square of sun. The air smelled like wet cement and cut grass. I sat behind the wheel and realized my heart hadn't done the little jump when the phone buzzed on my passenger seat. It was a calendar reminder, oil change. I turned the key and felt the engine come on like a fact. No music, no credits, no gavel. Just the hum of the day getting ready, and me, not paying for the privilege of sitting in it.